welcome back to the Real Tea of Sobriety. I am your solo host today, Heather, and today we're diving into a story that challenges one of the most famous unwritten rules of recovery. They say you shouldn't make any major life changes in your first year of sobriety, and you definitely shouldn't fall in love. But what happens when the person who understands your darkest chapters becomes the one who helps you write your brightest ones? Today, I'm joined by Dan and Natasha. They didn't meet at a coffee shop or through an app. They met within the walls of a residential treatment center, navigating the raw uphill battle of early recovery. Fast forward to today. They are happily married and building a life founded on shared sobriety. We're going to talk about the pink cloud of rehab, romance, how they transitioned from clinical care to a shared home, and how they protect their individual recovery while nurturing a marriage. Dan and Natasha, welcome to the show.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, you
Surprise.
two. Yeah. So, Natasha, of course, I know you from the facility. And it sounds like after you told me this story about doing that no, the unwritten rule of I don't want to say hooking up, but meeting Dan and you guys felt really close together as close friends and then eventually, of course, got married in rehab. But you're quite the little stinker. You really are. I mean, you hid the phone and I had to call you out on that. And then this. So, but I do want to say it's like it's not typical people. Their marriage is actually really beautiful. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome, Dan, and welcome, Natasha.
Thank
Uh,
you.
Dan, I am just meeting you today. So tell me what your DOC is.
It's alcohol.
Okay.
So uh starting out, uh I mean I also was using benzos too. So it was
Okay.
really to manage my anxiety. So I guess
Yeah.
you could call it cross addiction and then,
Hmm.
going through the multiple rehabs and doctor detoxes and everything that I have, it's realizing like, yeah, I mean, I it's not necessarily the drug, it's that it was my coping tool, right? And so like anything could be an avenue. Any anything that's going to give me dopamine or make things go away is a potential addiction avenue for me. So
Yeah. Yeah. Boy, I hear you on that one. And Natasha, for those of you that are just joining, and this is the first episode that you're listening to, Natasha, would you like to share your DOC, your drug of choice?
Yeah, so mine started as wow. I mean, if you want to go way back, beginning it was alcohol. When I was a teenager.
Mhm.
Kind of kicked that and then weed. Did a lot of that. Had a panic attack and stopped that. And then, I dabbled in drugs and stuff, but then I had surgery, a lot of pain, a lot of illness and stuff, and got prescribed painkillers. So that became uh mine because it not only killed physical pain, it killed mental pain.
Yeah.
So, but now I'm like, I won't touch anything because I'm afraid it could all just, like Dan said.
All it takes is just
Hmm.
one, and bam.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me, Natasha, you're at 4 months.
Mhm.
Congratulations. 4 months and one day. So
Yeah.
congratulations.
Yeah.
Dan, how long are you into your sober journey?
so let me check my sober app here.
Okay.
1,569 days.
Wow,
So
congratulations.
4 years, 3 months, and 16 days.
All right, dude, that's awesome. Congratulations. I
Thank
love
you.
that for you. Now, before we really delve into the deep meat questions, how long have you two known each other and how long have you been married?
We got married last October, and then we've known each other since early 2021.
Okay.
No, it
So
was 2020.
2020, right when
Okay.
COVID was kicking off.
Oh,
Because
fun.
I remember reading about it before I'd gone into rehab, and
Mm,
then while in rehab, seeing news stories where they were finally talking about it, and I was like, there it is.
Yeah.
yeah.
S-
I the first time I met Dan, I love this story. I think I told it at our wedding. I tell everybody this story. I actually thought he was a giant dick. Um, I've never been to rehab. I didn't really understand it. Went in with this preconceived notion it was going to be a white room, orderlies shove me in, spray me down with a hose, Shawshank style. That's not what it was, thank God. But I was like just kind of crawling my way out of detox, and I went down to the residential and I saw a bunch of people sitting at a table playing cards, and I went up there and I was like, "Hey guys, what's going on?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna be leaving tomorrow, so it's really nice like seeing you." Um, I'm like, "This isn't for me. I'm literally not an addict. Like, I'm good. Like, this isn't
Yeah.
my style. Look at you. If you roll your eyes one more time, I swear to God, they're gonna come out your butthole." They, but like, and he's like, sitting there kind of nodding and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, this just isn't. I'm not for this shit.
Yeah.
And it was good. I detoxed. I'm good. And he goes, okay, see you in a week. And I was like, oh, fuck you. So I like kind of just got that ick. And I walked away, walked upstairs, went to my room, straight to my room, and just pissed about it all night in my head. Just little tiny mind bombs going off.
Yeah.
And so all through the night, I thought about it and I was like, hmm. I'm like, this guy's been here probably 300 times, this fucker. Um, and so I was like, what's a couple more days? I'll try it. So I come crawling out of my room the next morning because I'm still in really bad shape. And uh I run into him in the med line. He's like, "Oh, it's nice you stayed. It's so good to see you." And he was really sweet. And I was like, "Huh, the hell is this place?" And then, I would watch him and he'd be sitting in this, like, they had these brown leatherback chairs, and he was just reading and he was off by himself. It was like he didn't give a shit about other people. He was just invested in reading and he was just sitting there and I just watched him. And then my favorite part, because God, I'm such a creeper. This is probably illegal. But I would watch him eat his food because he was meticulous. So he'd start off with a salad and then he'd go back and get like his plate of like veggies, meats. Like homeboy had like a good meal thing going. And then he would go to the table and he'd eat it like he was in prison. I was like, oh, fuck, he's been in prison before. I'm like, buddy, nobody's gonna take your food. Like, there's enough food for everybody and more here. And he's just like, so he was really interesting to me to watch. And I went up to him and just started talking to him because I saw he had tattoos and stuff. And I was like, he might be a metalhead. I'm gonna go talk to him about metal music. And that's
Hmm.
literally how our whole relationship began, just bonding over I found out he's indigenous and I am too. So we bonded over that. We bonded over reading books and music.
Wow.
Just
What a
became
story.
friends. Yeah.
And so from my perspective, this was probably my God, like 13th stay in a hospital or facility or whatever. And I remember my first rehab, and I went somewhere that had some
Oof.
people pretty deep in their addiction. I mean, it was a locked facility, like you had to get someone if you wanted to go outside and smoke. And at this time,
Okay.
I'd I'd quit smoking years before, and so I wasn't doing that, but I remember going in and seeing people with, cirrhosis and like all sorts of
Mm.
life problems, court issues. And I was like, man, I'm nothing like these people. And so when she said that, I was just like, okay, like I get it. Like I've been exactly in your shoes where it's so easy to see the differences instead of all the things that really bind us
Hmm.
together. And I mean,
Yeah.
there's a multitude. Like as addicts, we have a shorthand that other people don't get. Like we can say something, we don't have to preface it. We don't have to explain it. It's just, you know.
Yeah.
Like, if if you're in need of your DOC and you don't have it, like you're gonna get your DOC so you don't feel bad. And
Hmm.
like that's what at least that's what I was running away from, was I was running away from feeling anxiety, I mean, really feeling anything, but like I made sure that I always had my thing. And for me, at least it was available in stores, right? So I get other
Yeah.
people where it's like they don't have that avenue.
Yeah. Yep. They absolutely do not. So, the no relationship rule. Most facilities, most recovery programs that you go into advise against starting a new relationship in the first year, let alone in rehab. How did you both navigate that advice, and what made you decide that this connection was worth the risk?
Okay, I'll tell mine and then you tell yours. Okay, because I'm gonna skip kind of the so I went there 3 times. Dan and I were there twice together. The first time was the like introduction of our relationship, right? As a friendship,
Mm.
right?
Okay.
That's where we became friends. I think there was a curiosity there, but I don't think we touched it. We just no. We both had a lot of shit going on. I was still married. He, had his stuff. Um, and then in July, this is a really good story. I was doing, God, I don't know how, we'll put a trigger warning on this. I was doing autism therapy and, one of my clients, I went to go do therapy, and this is going to be a really short version. Um, I, uh, went to work at their home. I couldn't find the girl was 14. I couldn't find her. Her brother was there and he's like, "Oh, she's around here somewhere, And so I hear the shower and I'm like, "Hey, you in there?" I knock on the door and Dad's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "The dad." And I'm like, Is it good? Is it okay?" "Yeah." And I walk in and he's in the shower with her and they're both not clothed. So that set off a whole bunch of like childhood
Yeah.
trauma for me. And I was done. I was done at that point. I already had a lot going on. The marriage just falling apart,
Mhm.
ending. And so I left and I got into a really dark headspace and I was actually planning on unaliving myself. And I was at the spot where I was actually going to walk out in front of a semi, not thinking, hey, I'm not only going to die, I'm going to ruin this person's life who ends my life. I called Dan and he didn't pick up per usual because Dan was a fucker to get a hold of. Like, I had to chase him. So I just hung up my phone and I started my descent. I shut the car door. I wrote a little note, left it there. And then I had my phone in my hand, not even sure why I had it. And he called. And I was like, whoa, this dude never calls me. So, you know, I, long story short, he saved my life. And um, after, you know, I did end up relapsing over that day. And um, we were talking, and he's like, yeah, I'm back at Skywood. And I was like, ah, great. And I was like, by the way, I'm going to be honest with you, I relapsed. And he's like, well, get your ass here. And I was like, okay. And so I showed up. And by the way, the phone thing is because of him. He taught me how to fucking sneak it in, dude. So you told me how.
Yeah. You
But
become a
this,
frequent flyer, you kind
so I
of,
did sneak it
Yeah,
in the
you
second
learn.
time, but I didn't really use it. So it didn't matter. The second time, it was July and it was like summer camp. I really didn't learn a
Mm.
whole lot. I learned a lot from Dan. I learned a lot about my wants and my needs, I guess. Um, and then we both decided sober living was what we wanted to do. So it's my heating. Okay. I'm turning my heating blanket on. Um, and so we had both decided to go to sober living. Um, but I, during our stay, I had a birthday. Mm. And, um, Dan was my bestie there. There was actually girls all over him, dude. And I was trying to be his wingman. I was trying to be like, yeah, go for. None of them were great candidates. Just saying they're not good. And so for my birthday, he actually gave me one of his turquoise bracelets and like all these like beautiful, meaningful things and like a little letter. And I was like, and then it hit me. Boom. I'm like, oh, oh. I'm like, oh, we do not need this. And then he had heard like I was flirting or something with another guy, and he had this look on his face. I was like, what is going on, buddy? And he's like, and I'm like, what's happening? And he's like, I'm like, you want to go talk? And he's like, yeah. So he took a walk and he's like, heard you did this. And I was like, I didn't do that. What the hell are you talking about? And he was so upset. I was like, oh no, you too? I'm like, all right. We're kind of fucked here, aren't we? Like, I don't know what to do with this. So we were walking one late night. I think it was like the day of my birthday, maybe after, I don't know, somewhere around there. And we were listening to Neil Young Harvest Moon, and there was a full moon.
Mm.
And he stopped me and he looked at me and said, I'm all in. He goes, I'm all in, 100%. And I was like, me too, my guy. Let's hope and pray, man, because we both know like this is great. And we just kind of started our process. But we weren't like rushing, you know what I mean? We were just
Yeah.
It was like we were just trying to figure everything out at once. Each
Yeah.
other, ourselves. It was
Hmm.
hard.
So from my perspective, before I started my recovery journey, I was seeing someone and I mean, I knew that I had too much going on in my life, like personally, and I was like, I'm not ready to like be in a serious long-term relationship. And this was a year before I met Tosh. And I had broken up with her. I also lived on the West Coast at this point. And then I'd gone into rehab and did a hospital visit and then did a rehab. Um, and I just knew that I wasn't ready for relationships, right? So in my mind, I was I was completely off the market because I had too much personal stuff going on. I had too many things about myself to figure out, I had to figure out recovery and I kept not figuring it out.
Yeah.
Um, but as part of that, after my like fourth relapse, after I started my recovery journey, I was like, I have to get back to where my parents live because like I need more tangible support. I have an identical twin brother and he was also struggling with his own, you know,
Hmm.
addiction and recovery. And, I was quitting drinking, going to rehabs, and I could stay sober for a week outside of it. And then, but he'd keep drinking. And I mean, I could sniff out the second he was drinking, just the way his voice changed, the sound of a glass on his table. Like I was like, oh, that's a shot glass. Oh, he has booze in there. And like I was way too fresh and way too deep to be anywhere near capable of being around someone that was drinking, let alone the person that I knew the best. And so I came back to Michigan and series of rehabs, relapses, and throughout that process, I started out fairly confident. I'd done a lot of reading. I was already aware of like metacognition and, looking at my motivations for drinking and things like that. But I was still so thoroughly convinced that I got this, I can figure it out, I can outthink this. And, I was still trying to
Mhm.
place alcohol back in my life. It was, um, well, I'll go and I'll get sober for 6 months and then I can figure out drinking then. I can figure out how to use and still function. And then, I'll just drink casually like everyone else. And I had the audacity, I had the temerity to think that I was smarter than everyone else. And I'm a fairly smart guy and I've spent my life figuring things out without being taught, right? And so I
Mhm.
was like, this is just the same thing. And it's not. Just bar none, it's not. And so when
Mhm.
I met Tash, um, I'd gone for it was like early 2020 and I went and stayed for like 45 days. And that's where I really learned a lot. And that's where I kind of like rediscovered myself and like my passion for art and like self-expression and like just who I am. And I'd never really delved into that being a twin because we were always a unit. And this was like the first time, aside from a couple other handful times, where I was alone in my adult life without the identity of being a
Yeah.
twin. And so it was a journey of like self-discovery, reflection, and all that. So she met me during this really very big transitional period for me. And then I was still very much thinking like I've got this. And then when she went for her second time and I was there again, that's when I finally said, I'm so sick and tired of being sick and tired. Like I hate the AA-isms. I hate them with a
Mhm.
passion, but they're so true. And I was sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? I may be smart. I may know a lot. I might be able to learn really quickly, but I don't know shit about this. And I'm going to start listening to the professionals.
Good.
I'm going to start listening to my therapist, and I'm just going to do what they say to do. And, I'd heard sober living over and over and over before, and I was so resistant against it because of my anxiety. I dealt with agoraphobia, and I was afraid
Mm.
of being away from home or a place where I felt safe to have a panic attack. And I was like, I just have to do this. I have to change more because I've tried everything else and nothing's working. And so decided to do sober living. And, it was a game changer because my mom was my sober cop. She was my biggest cheerleader, but also she wanted
Mhm.
to be able to fix it.
Mm.
Just lost my microphone. She wanted to be able to fix me. And she couldn't. I needed to take ownership of my own recovery, and I'd never done that. I let her have
Okay. Yeah.
full ownership of it. And so I was like, I'm gonna do this. And I mean, it was good. I still slipped up. Um, but my thing is that I never gave up on wanting to quit. And I kept going back and I kept getting help. And Tosh was actually a huge part of this too. When we were together, she had dealt with panic attacks and panic disorder and stuff. And I remember one time she looked at me and she's like, I just can't envision a future with you if you can't go out and do stuff. And like I promised her that I was going to do some of the like tangible exposure therapy of like getting out of the house consistently and like really
Mhm.
confronting it. And I wasn't doing it. And I looked at her and I said, you know what? You're right. And I'm going to change that. And then I did. I just said, if I have a panic attack, that's fine. I have a panic attack. If I get anxious, that's fine. I'm anxious. But I need to tangibly change my behavior if I don't want to be stuck. And it
Mhm.
tied back into everything else that I learned in recovery, which was I had to change more. I had because the if I was comfortable, that's not good. Comfortable got me deep,
Mhm.
deep, deep, deep into addiction and stuck, so thoroughly stuck in a hole. And that's when I really started taking the idea of commitment, like any sort of commitment, very seriously and looked at it and said, okay, before I'd said, I realized because you quit your DOC and everyone in your life is like they don't believe you. And it's so frustrating because you have all these internal changes, all these things happening inside. And it's like, why can't you see this? And it's like, when I look back on it, it's like, how many times did I promise I'm done drinking? How many times have I said I'm not drinking? Like, of course they're not going to believe me. I'm a liar. I'm a fucking liar. I've lied over and over and over, and I'm like, that's fine. My reputation is for shit on this, and
Mhm.
so I'm going to show. And so I stopped speaking and started showing consistently. And so I was like, you know what? I'll tell you I'll change, and then I will show you. I won't say it again and
Mhm.
again. I'll just show you day in and day out. And that's been, I guess, the biggest thing for me is like becoming more resilient to being uncomfortable and then consistently showing up and doing what I'm saying I'm going to do. And I,
Mhm.
I I won't preach it. I'll just say I'm going to do it and then I'll do it or I won't do it. And I have to live with whether or not I don't do it. And then that's not the version of myself that I want to be. That's not a version of myself that I would be proud of. And that was again another part of it where I was like, I get to choose who I want to be. I can choose to live a life of someone that I would be proud to know. And I was like, I'm going to start doing that. I'm just going to make the decisions to show up and do the things that would be of someone that I would be proud to know.
God,
And
that's
it's
beautiful, Dan. Oh my God.
and it's
I
it's
know
it's
I'm over here
easy.
like,
I know.
yes,
It's so easy to say these things, right? And it's so hard in practice, but it
Yeah.
was a conviction just to say, I'm
Hmm.
going to start doing it because I want to be proud of myself.
Yeah.
because I remember that, I was so tired of like, I mean, we get together, right? And we're living in Ann Arbor, and there was just relapse after relapse for us both. And it was hard, you know, and he wouldn't leave the house, and I had to keep my family separate from him and the kids, and I wouldn't let him around my kids drinking. He wasn't his best person. He wasn't this Dan I knew, and I didn't want them to meet him then.
Hmm. Yeah.
So, and we kind of just had this big change and moved to the
West side of the state.
west side of the state. And um that's when he just stopped talking and started showing, and that like changed everything in me though. So that
Yeah.
when he did that, I watched, and I was a all talk girly. I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna, I didn't do shit.
Hmm.
It was just talk. And so now, after watching him and how much it's affected me and changed my life, honestly, um, I talk less and do more. My
Hmm.
actions show everything.
Yeah.
And that goes for all of our relationships that we have. Um, Outside of ours, if they're not showing us what we need or what we want, fuck them, they're done.
Yeah.
You
Yep.
showed me, you showed me with
Yeah.
your actions how you feel.
And
Yeah.
what's interesting that I found through this is that just like hurt people and damage begets damage, healing can do the same thing
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah. For
because
sure.
absolutely.
I've been able to
Yeah.
demonstrate that you can heal, you can change.
Hmm.
And like as part of this, my twin brother went to rehab based on me going back and back and back and it he was able to go once and
Yeah,
he
you went
actually listened.
342
Yeah.
times. He went
He
once.
he actually listened.
Who's the stronger twin? Not you, Dan.
He fortunately was able to learn from my mistakes and go with an open mind and an open heart
Yeah.
and really get the most out of his experience. He went somewhere fantastic. He went to Sierra Tucson. I mean, he got the best of
Mm.
the best, and he spent his
Good.
time working on
Good.
himself. Um, and just with that too, I feel like I've been able to show Tosh like through action consistently, like if you do these
Mhm.
things, it has a ripple effect. And even I noticed in that second time we met in rehab, I noticed that even changing my thinking, right? Because before,
Hmm.
it's so normal to just harbor thoughts of people who are like, oh, look at this
Yeah.
guy. And what I realized in that state was that a lot of times when I would dog on someone was because they were exhibiting something that I didn't like about myself.
Mm.
And instead of holding thoughts and making space for, man, I think this guy's a real piece of shit, I just said, you know what, maybe I give him space and grace.
Hmm.
Maybe if he's too much for me, I back up and give him space, but at the same time I also can be like, man, I hope he figures it out.
Yeah.
I hope I hope he gets what I'm getting. I hope that
Hmm.
everything works out. And um and that change in thinking, I felt like attracted more positivity around me. I found that I started only
Yeah.
having positive interactions with people because I didn't entertain negative. They would, rag on someone else and I wouldn't feed into it. I wasn't the right audience for that. And then that stopped coming around. And then only positivity started coming around. It was like so enlightening and eye-opening to realize like, oh, I don't have power over my thoughts, but I have power over which thoughts I choose to nurture.
Hmm.
And see a reflection of my daily life um, when I do that. And it was I felt like on that stay, I unlocked like so many doors that had been like shown to me and like just started putting the pieces together. I clearly didn't have it all put together.
Yeah.
We got together in sober living. We both relapsed. And I mean, the reason people shouldn't necessarily get together from rehab is that it's going to be most likely a shit show. I hope it's not,
Hmm.
but coming out of rehab, we both had so much growing and living and understanding to do. And I feel like only because we felt something unique with each other and we're both persistent
Yeah.
and we weren't willing to say no at the first obstacle. Instead, it was let's work on this. Let's figure this out. And she didn't give up on me. I mean, I feel really fortunate that I've had so many people in my life that refuse to give up on me. Um, because it took a while before I put these pieces together, but
Yeah.
you know, it took us both making a lot of missteps, a lot of a lot of mistakes, but a willingness to come back and figure it out.
and learn from them,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? We love
Yeah.
to break shit apart and then put it back together. So
Okay.
we'll like even in bed, this is weird. Dan's probably gonna kill me, but even like so like after sex, we do a rundown
Hmm.
and
Okay.
we
Yeah.
break everything
That's
apart and we're like,
good.
well, I did this and this and this because of this and this, but do you want this or do you want, and we do a whole fucking rundown afterward.
I feel like it really helps me because I'm very
Yeah.
literal and like,
Yeah.
like
And I'm
and
so
just the
emotional that
but the open communication and it was like realizing like we need this communication in all aspects,
Hmm.
not just around other stuff, but it was also like, if we have a fights often
we really don't fucking fight, dude.
not well, not anymore,
Not
but
like a normal fight because we just
I
talk
don't
shit out.
I don't know what a normal fight is, but
Okay.
uh what happens is that, especially earlier on, one or the other would be bottling up either resentment or just not feeling seen, and
Hmm.
we didn't know how to broach it with the other person, and we didn't feel safe to start with.
Yeah.
And then it would boil up until one or both of us couldn't ignore it, and then it's it's, shouting, it's, yelling, but then it's still a willingness to come back and re-engage and then talk about why that happened. What's the
Yeah,
source of this?
that's so important in a relationship, especially when you're in recovery to do that because there can be like yelling and screaming that can trigger trauma for anyone. And to talk through that and come to an agreement or come to an understanding both of you together is huge, especially since you're both in recovery. And I love that you two work on that. I think that is so beautiful. And I think a lot of people that are listening to this, whether they've been in rehab and they found their true love in rehab, or if they're thinking about going in, I hope that they really take a lot from that because when you're in rehab, you're in this pink cloud and everything is like you're in this bubble and you're in the pink cloud and you're like high and everything and then you meet this person and you're connecting and you're like, "Oh wow, this is great. This is great." And it's not always great. It's, you're in that bubble, you're in that pink cloud. Are you willing to put in that effort like Dan and Natasha do? Are you willing to do that on
Well,
top of working on yourself?
and I think too, the thing is that I went into rehab and it's breaking down things that I didn't realize were trauma, especially I feel like being a man and like growing up, when I did, I didn't realize that like neglect was trauma. And I didn't have, uh, like sexual trauma or anything like that. I didn't have like these great big events, but I had consistent things. Both my parents, work very long hours and I wouldn't, see them all the time. And it's not to say they didn't try their best and everything, but at the same time, it's different from, having the consistency of a parent or caregiver or whatever so consistently there. And we lived far away from the extended family, and I didn't recognize that that was a thing that would shape how I interacted with other relationships and shape how I approached every relationship. Um, and so it was figuring that stuff out. And, going into rehab, I'm breaking these things down and I'm at my most vulnerable. And other people know about this vulnerability. And it's so easy to connect with other people when we're this vulnerable, this bare, finally bare, and finally feeling
Mhm.
feelings and feeling good, bad, and everything in between. But like finally feeling and so dopamine starved and I meet someone you have a connection with and you're like, oh hey, friend, or maybe more.
Yeah.
And it's just like hoping for things in sometimes it's only going to be hope because you get on the outside and it's like, oh, that's not the real world. But with Tash, I felt, I don't know, she's just so unique.
Yeah.
And like it just, I mean, I met my person. And like it took rehab for us to meet, and I'm so thankful for it. Like Tash will ask me, would you change anything about your life? And I'm like, no, because it got me to you, it got me to today, it got me here. And like if I changed anything, I'd mess that up. I wouldn't meet my person, I wouldn't meet the person I was supposed to be with. And yeah, so like I get the draw of wanting to get with someone in rehab, and it's like you finally met a fellow addict that gets so many of these things,
That gets
right?
you. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
gets some of the like I need to hide from the pain things. And a normie isn't gonna, they're not gonna get that. They're just gonna be like, well, just, it's not that big of a deal, shrug it off. And it's like I
Yeah.
can't,
Just
like
don't drink.
yeah, there's a reason I drank
Just
in
stop.
excess every single day I was awake. Like it's because I couldn't feel these things, I didn't know how to feel these things.
Hmm.
um and yeah, so it's like I I started out in the right mindset and then found my person, and was like, well, shit, that's out the door. And so we had to forge our path and figure it out. Um,
Yeah.
and I'm so thankful we did. Like I can't even envision my life at this point without her.
Same.
Wow. That's emotional. That's
I know.
beautiful. That is, yeah. I'm so happy for the both of you. It's wow.
But I don't recommend, I think, God, this is gonna sound corny. I think fate is fate, right? We
Yeah.
we're meant to help each other, to heal each other, especially the shit we've gone through, losing our mothers together,
Mhm.
staying sober through that together. Um, I think for any advice to give someone, I wouldn't recommend it. I've seen so many go so bad and affect their sobriety.
Sobriety's hard enough
But if
with
your soul knows and it's gonna go.
Mhm.
Like fate is fate. You can't stop it. If it's meant to be, it's gonna be. But if you're in it, you have to show with your actions because lip
Yeah.
service doesn't mean shit. We're liars, we're
No.
manipulators, we're that's the disease, you
Yeah.
know.
and
Mhm.
So
it's easy to want to believe the other person. And I just like I said, the strongest thing I realized was that my words aren't necessarily important, it's the actions. So I
Mhm.
started looking at actions. I started looking at everyone's actions, and it was like, especially getting out of rehab, you get everyone's numbers, especially the first couple times you go, and
Yeah.
it's like, oh, we're gonna keep up, and
yeah, I
do this
struggle
and
with that
that, and
so bad. I'm like, I made all these besties, and I'm like down to two, and I'm like, well, fuck, I had like 300.
and that's not to say that friendships and relationships can't grow out of it, but the reality is that relationships take work. And
Mhm.
if we're going
Both
to rehab,
parties.
yeah.
Both parties have to want it. It
And,
cannot be one-sided.
Yeah. And they have to work for it, both
Yeah,
of them together.
exactly. You have to work your
Yeah.
ass off.
Yeah.
Relationships like me and Heather, we're back and forth. We're both putting in the same amount. I think, I'm assuming, I think we do. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, back in our energy, to maintain
Yeah.
our friendship. I mean, I think we put,
Yeah.
the same amount. We're giving, giving, giving to each other. You know what I
Yes.
mean?
Yes. And we're sharing. We're sharing.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I knew that first day I met you, Natasha, I knew I wanted to be one of your besties.
me too. I was like, this girl is dope. I mean, I like that though, because I find, I don't know if you do this, but when you meet people and you come across them, you're like, I know somehow it's going to play out and you're going to be a part of my life.
Yeah.
I can't tell you for how long or how,
Yeah.
you know, what that looks like, but I know for sure you're going to be one of my people.
Yeah. You're
that
And you were
definitely one of my people.
that is
saying,
actually a really good point too, was realize what that made me like what the rehab thing made me realize is that like some of the people that I would make connections with or like rehab friendship with was realizing that I think Heather, you said this to Tash, was that this is a season of our life. This is when we were supposed to
Yeah.
meet, and this is
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
duration of it. And
Yeah.
you know, being okay with that, learning to accept that like you're not going to be my forever friend, but you were a great friend right then. And like
oh,
some of the people we meet in rehab, it's like, you know, you you
motherfucker,
hang
I know
out.
you ain't talking about me and Heather being seasoned friends.
No, 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 no. What I'm saying is the other people who disappear after
Oh,
rehab,
okay.
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
I
where
was
you
Yeah.
like,
get out and it's like they're not talking to me anymore. What happened? I thought we were best buds. And
yeah.
that happens. And I learned
Yeah.
that like just because there was a strong friendship then, it was just that friendship for then. And maybe
Yeah,
that's what we needed,
exactly.
and that's okay.
Yeah.
And then learning to be okay with that. And then also as part of that, realizing like, well, I require people in my life that also show up for me if I show up for them,
Hmm.
Mm.
and learning how to set those boundaries and say, this person doesn't show up in the way that I need. I can't expect them to be someone that they're not. And so I'm going to set a boundary. I'm going to say, I'm not going to go out of my way for this
Hmm.
other person because they don't go out of their way ever for me.
Yeah.
And I don't want to dishonor myself or put myself out and
Mhm.
then harbor resentments and get upset because this is just how this person is. And me expecting them to change if they don't want to change, that's unreasonable.
Mhm.
And realizing like, oh, that's just who they are. But that's not that means that that person isn't, for me, that's not a person that I necessarily need to cultivate and spend time on if they're not doing like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. With that being said, Dan, there's also those boundaries that we have to set when we have a friend reach out to us and they're what you call a vampire. They're constantly talking about their issues all the time, and not once will they say, "Hey, how are you? What's going on? Tell me about you. Tell me about your life." And they make it every time about them. That's really important to set boundaries because that can be tiring and that can really wear on you. Yeah,
Being an
definitely.
unpaid therapist can be rough.
Yeah, give me money, honey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This
You
is
just send them Venmos. Remember
Yeah.
this
that phone call?
this is
Yeah.
a one-way relationship right now. Let's make it two-way and you can start paying me. Like, all
Yeah.
right, this economy,
Woohoo.
price of these
Yeah.
eggs.
God, no kidding. Oh my gosh. Um,
So yeah, that's the basis of our love story. I mean, it's a lot of clinical, a lot of uh that's how we made it, you
yeah,
know? I'd say a
working
lot of
Work.
hard.
mutual respect, a
Work.
lot of hard talks, a lot of just saying the things like me saying, I don't think this is gonna work, Dan, if you can't change this about you. Dan, same to me.
Yeah.
We give it
Yeah.
to each other, the truth. Um,
And
Honesty.
being able to receive the truth too.
Hmm.
And that's why I
Yes.
think
Yeah.
the respect is so important.
Yeah.
So,
And
so important.
Hmm.
helping or letting each other process their emotions in their own time.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I was, let's fucking fix this now because I'm not going to bed with this. I'm not going to bed with this ever. Like, and he has to process. And so I step back now and allow him to process, you know?
Yeah, sometimes I need time just to mull it over, think it through. Because
Mhm.
I like approaching things from multiple different angles. Like a lot of things that I'll tell Tosh is like, oh, this person's doing this because of this.
Hmm.
And for me, that just helps because then I understand their motivations. And it's not that I'm okay with it or whatever. It's just if I understand where they're coming from, then I can empathize and then make my own decisions around it.
Yeah.
With whether it
Yeah.
be a boundary or grace or whatever it is, and then, decide. Um, I can't remember where I was going with that, but
That's okay. Brain farts are cool.
Yeah, they are. We have them all the time.
Yeah.
So, Natasha, I like what you said about doing the hard work. When we're in our active addiction, we're very selfish, and it's all about us and woe is me and everything. Once you are in recovery and you are really earnest about it, and you want to be honest with yourself, and you have a wonderful, wonderful partner that you want to make it work. You do. You have to put in that hard work. But once you
Yeah.
start putting in that hard work, don't you feel that it gets easier and easier to
Oh,
do
yeah.
that? Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
definitely.
It's not work anymore. It's just it's our relationship. It's just how we,
Yeah,
okay, hi,
yeah.
and spider web hair. It's just the way, our relationship is, it's how,
Mhm.
um, we go throughout the day, little
Yeah, yeah,
issues come up and we just know how to get through them now. And we get through
yeah.
them easy peasy. That's why we don't have big fights and arguments. We just don't because we talk through everything. Because we sense each other too. That's a weird thing we have. He knows when I'm off. I know when he's off. And it's
Okay.
just a feeling. And so we're constantly checking in with each other. And we took from rehab. We'll even do two emotions. Give me two feelings. And he'll give me two feelings, and I'll give him two feelings. Then we explain why we're feeling this. You know, we do feelings check-ins.
Yep.
I mean, we
Wheel of
really
feels.
Yes, I love that. I miss
make
that Wheel
our
of Feels.
yeah, we make our relationship part of our sobriety and part of our um self-care, I guess,
Hmm.
self
Yeah.
uh healing.
Hmm.
So we include that into all that we're working on, you know, by ourselves. Like, because I have my own stuff, he has his own stuff, but then we bring the relationship in and kind of meld it together. You know what I mean? And help each other heal, help each other get through things, and we've been through some tough, tough things sober. And it's like we're kind of waiting for the
The
possible
easier
at the end of
parts.
the rainbow or something. Because earlier, I know I'll probably watch this later and there was a moment where I was like, God, mom's gonna love watching this.
Hmm.
Because she was a fan of Dan. She was like, Dan's her homie. Yeah, I know, right, Dan? Made you cry, fucker. All of you cry. But then I thought, she's right here. Yvonne's right here, Dan's mom, you know.
Yeah.
They were our biggest cheerleaders, you know? And I think if you're coming out of rehab and you're healing yourself and you're doing all the right things and you find another person with that same exact mindset, you know what I mean? I I would say, me also being a hopeless romantic, because I had, told
Mm.
people in rehab about Dan and I, we met here, but I don't recommend it. But I would have the relationships start popping up and they're coming to me and I'm like, that's toxic as shit. It is not. It's so toxic. Like I can't tell you because
Yeah.
I didn't do that, but
Hmm.
we got toxic. Dan and I
I
were very toxic in Ann Arbor. It
I
was
also want
nasty.
to point out too that like you aren't necessarily going to find your healing in another person. Like so for me, I
Hmm.
truly met Tosh at the exact right time in my life
Mm.
where I had done I'd been doing self-reflection and self-work and figuring out a lot of these things, a lot of, my motivations and what drives me and like figuring out what was important to me. And if we'd met when I started my recovery journey, nothing would have happened because I was nowhere
Yeah.
in the place to be able to uh, even entertain the idea of involving someone else
Yeah,
and their
he
recovery in my
definitely,
Yeah.
life.
he
Yeah.
was not, he gave off the vibes of like, no, thank you. And that's why I
Hmm.
was like, we're friends. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I was totally fine with that.
Hmm.
Um, and what were you just saying, Dan, about the healing? Yeah. So I found healing from Dan, not within, right? So it's a
Hmm.
difference. I saw Dan doing and showing with his actions everything. He'd wake up, he'd set an intention, he'd live that intention throughout the day. I was in awe of that because I've always heard people just talk, 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 and nobody would show me like what it was like to actually do the fucking thing they're promising.
Hmm.
When that started happening, there was a change within me because I wanted that. So I wasn't dependent about on him to do it for me. I started doing it myself. And that's the key of where all of it got really serious. And we sat down and we were like, okay, this is probably going to be a forever thing now. And that's when marriage and my kids started coming in and my family, you know what I mean, is when I started feeling I needed to change or I wanted to change. It wasn't I mean, it was needed, but I wanted it.
Hmm.
And then I started the process that I'd watched him do. And today I'm 100% completely different person. Completely different person.
Also,
Completely.
to like set a even a baseline. I mean, this was
Yeah,
fairly
everybody
recent.
should have a Dan. Sorry.
Set a baseline is this is a fairly recent conversation while she was in rehab. You know, we are talking on the phone and she's like, "You can't heal me," and I'm like, "I
On the
know."
legal phone.
It was an approved phone
It
call,
was an
but sh-
approved phone
but she's
call.
like,
Girl, I love you.
you can't heal me, you can't fix me, you can't do this," and I'm like, "I know." I can't do any of that. Like, this is your journey. All I can do is walk beside you. And
Mm,
so, if someone else is considering, a rehab romance, recognize that this person can't fix you. All they can do is walk beside you. And do you want to walk beside someone that's going to lift you up as well as you lift them up? Or
mm,
are you looking at
mm,
them as they're my magic bullet? Because no magic bullet
mm.
exists. No specific rehab you're going to go to is going to fix you. No one can do
No, it
that.
really doesn't either. It doesn't matter. Like my brother went to Pine Rest and he's 10 years sober. It
You
doesn't
can
matter. Dan's been to
you
Pine Rest and then he got out and fucking relapsed, you know?
oh, but
It's in you.
Yeah.
We
and
think the facility doesn't really matter. You have to want it.
Yes.
if
You
if
have
you
to do
if
the work.
yeah, if you want it and you show up and you take the most that you can from it. Like, the thing is that my recovery didn't stop at being in rehabs, right? It was through
Hmm.
meetings, it was through reading, it was through other people, it was through literal
Pod.
years of therapy. I mean, podcasts. But no, I mean, like, I stayed in an IOP program for a year and a half after I got out of
Yeah.
rehab because I was like, I need this community. I need this support. I need my peers in recovery because I need to be reminded also of what it's like early
Hmm.
on. Because, you start getting more and more time under your belt. It's easy to forget how hard it is
Yeah.
because it stops being the daily fist fight of I want to use and starts being, oh, I got this. And the truth is I never truly have this, right? But I have
Hmm.
I have choices that I can make that help me make sure that I have this.
Hmm. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I'm sorry, go on.
oh no, and
No,
and
he's done.
yeah. Truthfully I am, but like it's 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 continuing. It's always continuing. We're always growing, but I've told Tasha I try to make more steps in the right direction than the wrong direction of where I want to go. And it's
Mm.
daily. It's every single day. And that's that day at a time sort of thing. And like, again,
Ugh.
I hate the platitudes, but it's
No.
so true. Because if I remember hearing in the beginning, like, you can't drink ever again. And I was like, no, that's not going to work for me. And it's true. I couldn't fathom it because it was my companion every single day for years.
Mhm.
Every
Yeah.
single day, every single
Yeah.
hour, any
It's like
problem,
your
any
best friend.
celebration. My yeah,
Yeah.
my best friend, celebrate, grieve with, and everything in
Yeah.
between. And
Mhm.
it yeah, so it was just a consistent choice to like keep going in the right direction over and over and over again.
And that we
And
did. And that we did.
Yeah.
So that's how you do it, guys.
I love it. I love it. Okay, one last question for the both of you. Yes or no? Strictly yes or no. Dan.
Dan can't do those.
Dan's going to.
You have to. Yes or no. That's it.
okay.
Dan, yes or no? Do you recommend starting a relationship in rehab?
You can't even, yeah, it's got to be a yes or a no. Ooh.
Oh God.
It's killing him.
It is. It is. His poor
Yes.
brain.
Yes, with all sorts of asterisks behind it. So many. So many. Watch Rewatch the episode for the asterisks.
That was pretty smooth, sticking a yes, but in there. I like that, Dan.
I knew he
Nat
couldn't do it.
Natasha, yes or no? Do you recommend starting a relationship in rehab?
God, I want to say something after.
No, yes or no?
I'm gonna say, God, I've seen so many go bad lately.
Hmm.
So I'll say no.
Okay. All right.
But can I say why
So,
really quick?
no, you can't.
Do it in
Damn
the
it, it's
comments.
killing me.
Ask her in the comments
Yeah,
for
ask
her
me in the
reasons.
comments. I'll tell you why.
Yeah, yeah. Ask her in the comments. She won't tell you in the episode. You have to
Not
interact on
because
one
I
of the
don't love
social
Dan. I
media
adore this man.
Yeah,
platforms.
yeah. I love it. So I really appreciate all of the information from both of you. Dan, it was such a pleasure to meet you, to hear your story. It's amazing. Congratulations on not only realizing that, hey, I got to do this work. I have to show up for myself. One thing that I do want to comment on that is I'm glad that you finally fell in love with yourself.
Thank
That was
you.
beautiful. That was beautiful. Yeah. So, thank you for listening to this episode of the Real Tea of Sobriety. Thank you for joining the table, Natasha and Dan. It's been a pleasure. Oh my gosh. So yeah, so Natasha, once this is up and running, I will ask you in the comments. And so y'all have to go watch the episode and read the comments. We'd
Thank
like
you
to see your
guys.
comments too. And also, if you or someone you know are struggling with anything, with alcohol, with substance abuse, with not wanting to be alive, remember you can always reach out to SAMHSA, the SAMHSA National Helpline at 1-800-662 HELP. And the suicide and crisis hotline is, I don't have it on here, 988. It'll be in the show notes. And with that being said, we'll see everyone later. Thank you so much. Thanks,
See you
Natasha.
guys.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks,
Bye.
Dan.